year of this United Nations with the simple goal in our head and in our hearts. Let us now, more than ever, never give up believing that tomorrow can and must be better than today. Thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Malta. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Philip Edward Davis, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, I wish to congratulate Ambassador Yang on the session to the presidency of the General Assembly for this year coming, and give my best wishes to outgoing Ambassador Francis for leading us in the last year. Over the past 3 years, the Bahamas has been pleading with member states to engage in urgent action in respect of climate change. Along with other small island developing states, we have highlighted our vulnerabilities and our predicament. We have told you what we know, shared our experiences from the front line, described what we are doing to address the various issues, and warned how our yesterdays are becoming your tomorrows. There's been some welcome progress, but it falls far, far short of what is needed. And now we all have to live with the reality of a climate crisis that has pushed our planet past the critical threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius for an entire year. At this very moment, the new harsh reality manifests in hurricanes and heat, fire and floods. Member states can somehow quickly find eye-watering sums of money for bullets and bombs, but only rattle small change in their pockets when it comes to financing the costs of loss and damage, repair and recovery, so desperately needed to adapt to the new climate reality. Why? Why do members persist in ignoring the biggest threat of our lives? The easy answer would be to say that you just don't care. But I cannot accept that. To do so would be to accept a view of humanity which is at odds with my faith and lived experience of humanity. But we in the Bahamas clearly see that lack of determined, committed action as a series of misguided short-term choices and priorities. We can't choose differently. We can't choose better. We can act to address real, consequential priorities that are already impacting the lives of every single one of us and will continue to impact the lives of our children and their grandchildren for generations to come. The irony is that generations before us did not have an established forum such as this, a place to come together as a whole world to work together for the common good. The genocidal crisis of the Second World War gave birth to the United Nations, and the ensuing wars of independence and regional conflicts means that we have in place the structure for real, effective action. And so today, as the Bahamas celebrates 51 years of membership of the United Nations, we offer our service to the international community as we bid for non-permanent membership of the Security Council for the term 2032-2033. We do so because the present crisis of today, the looming crisis of tomorrow, requires even greater degrees of ingenuity, effort, multilateral cooperation, and sacrifice than the world needed in the aftermath of the Second World War. We understand well that the Council's mandate to maintain international peace and security goes far beyond the mere absence of war. But we also know that from where we stand, on the front line of the impact of climate change on humanity, that the mandate to cooperate in solving international problems, now more than ever, requires us to stand up and step forward. We do so to amplify the voices of small island developing states.
We do so because the voices of small island developing states are the harbingers of what lies in store for all of us. The Security Council of the future will not be equipped to deal with the biggest crisis of our time without voices like ours at the table. The link between climate change and global security is undeniable. Things are bad now, and they're going to get a lot worse before they get better. Climate considerations must be integrated into all aspects of the Security Council's work. Because of this, the Bahamas stands ready to advocate and support whatever reforms are needed to help maximize the effectiveness of the work of the Council. Membership for countries like ours was not what the Charter members contemplated when the UN was established, but it is countries like ours which will help the Council with inclusive, truly representative decision-making needed to help address the greatest crisis of our time. Friends, aspirations to lasting global peace and security will remain empty dreams if not supported by economic security. For too long, the global financial system has been skewed against developing nations. It is a cruel irony that industrialized nations who bear the greatest responsibility for the climate crisis often perpetuate another form of injustice in the form of our current global system. We have been instrumental in exposing the hypocrisy of unilateral blacklisting and advocating for a framework that prioritizes fairness and inclusivity. The present system, with its dark rules and uneven playing field, drains resources from developing countries, leaving us to grapple with the consequences. The Bahamas refuses to accept this double standard. We are raising our voice to demand a fairer and more equitable international framework, one where the voices of all countries, regardless of population or GDP, are heard and respected. The Bahamas will continue to be a leading voice in championing this issue for as long as we need to do so, no matter how lonely or how long the journey may take. Even among small island developing states, the Bahamas is uniquely vulnerable. We are not waiting for solutions. We are creating them. We have created a National Youth Guard, empowering our young people to become environmental champions because we know that future generations will have an enormous burden to shoulder. We are embracing innovation, particularly in the realm of ocean technology, to find solutions to the climate crisis. The Bahamas may be small in size, but we are not short on ambition or ingenuity. We have said it before, but we can never say it often enough. Countries like the Bahamas contribute so little to the problems of the world, and yet we are among the first and greatest affected. Over 40% of my country's national debt is as a direct result of the impacts of climate change. Locked as we are into an annual cycle of severe hurricanes, repair and rebuild, how can we fulfill the reasonable aspirations of our people for national development? We need to stop thinking of climate change merely as an environmental threat. It is a threat multiplier, exacerbating existing tensions, creating new ones, and undermining the very foundations of global security. If we think we have refugee challenges now, do we really want to wait until millions are forced to cross borders just to survive? As resources become scarcer, as livelihoods are lost, the potential for conflict, for instability, and mass migration becomes inevitable. And so we ask you to take note of your own self-interest. Your Excellencies, in our Caribbean region, the Republic of Haiti is facing a multidimensional security crisis. It is born of gang violence and resource scarcity, made worse by massive earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural hazards. In accordance with UNSC Resolution 2966, passed in 2023, and in coordination with the government of Haiti, member states are contributing to a multinational security support mission. The Bahamas government is strongly of the view that any mission in Haiti ought to be Haitian-led and aim to build the capacity of the Haitian National Police to counter gangs and improve security conditions. The Bahamas reiterates the importance of continued and sustained financial support from donor countries to ensure that UN Trust Fund is able to fund the MSSM operations now and in the future. The CARICOM region, in and of itself, cannot do it alone. And so we urge you to take note of this important aspect of the MSSM mission. Looking beyond our region, in 2024, the Bahamas has looked to South-South cooperation to fill the gaps in development support. We continue to be active participants in CARICOM. We value the support of the Commonwealth and the solidarity between Caribbean and Pacific Commonwealth states, and look forward to meeting this year in Samoa. We value the deepening relationship between CARICOM and the African region. We see renewed value in the Group of 77 and the non-aligned movement. Our concerted efforts to collectively focus on climate reparations have resulted in new pathways to climate justice at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea and at the International Court of Justice. We remain determined to protect and preserve our climate and our precious biodiversity through the progressive development of international law. COP29 must be a turning point. It is estimated that by 2050, climate-related damage is projected to rise to an almost unimaginable $38 trillion per year. My friends, in some respects, it is already too late. Where we are is not good enough, but there's still time just enough if we act and act now. Let's revitalize the stalled negotiations on a new collective quantified goal on climate finance. We cannot afford another year of inaction. Developed nations must step up, not just with words, but with enforceable, concrete commitments that reflect the scale and urgency of the crisis. While global military expenditure soared to an unprecedented $2.4 trillion last year, the Loss and Damage Fund, painstakingly established at COP28, has secured a mere $800 in pledges. This is a drop in the ocean compared to the trillions needed to address the escalating costs of the negative impacts of climate change. This is not just an issue of funding, it is fundamentally an issue of sustainability and survival. Without it, peace and security mean nothing. The Loss and Damage Fund must be fully operationalized. This is about responsibility, accountability, and building a future where those who have polluted the most contribute the most to cleaning up the mess. The rise in global temperatures of more than 1.5 degrees Celsius this past year has put us in a new reality. But we must do more than roll the dice. Real effort, serious action, tangible progress. These are the only paths to sustainable solutions. And the same truths remain. We must prioritize energy solutions around sources of renewable energy. Redirecting the vast subsidies given to the fossil fuel industry towards renewable energy and climate adaptation and mitigation would be a powerful start. We must reform the global financial institutions and systems. We need multilateral development banks that are fit for purpose, providing accessible finance and prioritizing climate-resilient investments. We must continue to work to strengthen international cooperation. We need a renewed commitment to collective multilateral action. But friends, within this global emergency, we also see a glimmer of hope. The 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold cannot be an endpoint, but a turning point, an opportunity to reject complacency and chart a new course, one grounded in innovation, collaboration, and a resolute commitment to a just and sustainable future. We're not asking for a handout, but for a handout. Even the strongest swimmers drowns if left alone in a raging sea. I'll be remiss if I had to leave this podium without joining my sister, Prime Minister Barbados, in calling and renewing my call for the removal of the blockade in Cuba. It is hurting the people of Cuba, and though it is said that the blockade is against Cuba, it is the people in Cuba who suffers daily. It has not worked. It's been in place now for how many years? Over 70 years. So why should it still remain? And we call upon all of us here present to seek to persuade those who have the blockade to remove it and move it as soon as possible. Thank you for listening.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Kassim Majaliwa, Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Your Excellency, Philemon Young, President of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, on behalf of Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, I stand before this august assembly to deliver a message of hope and peace to the people of the world. In doing so, I wish to convey warm and fraternal greetings from the President and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania. Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, wishes this assembly every success in its important deliberation. I would also like to join the previous speakers in commending you, Mr. President, for the excellent manner you are steering the work of the Assembly. Tanzania endorses and supports the theme chosen of this session, that is, leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations. This theme aligns well with the United Nations Charter and builds on the efforts of your predecessor, His Excellency Dennis Francis, whose remarkable leadership is truly appreciated. Tanzania recognizes and thanks the Secretary General for his great work and the important message he shared with us at the opening of this general debate. Mr. President, the participation in the 79th General Assembly has been a unique opportunity for us to share perspectives regarding to the pledge and the commitment made for addressing global challenges such as pandemics, extreme poverty, climate change, and conflicts. I would like to share some of Tanzania's perspectives as follows. Sustainable development, Tanzania's path to inclusive growth. Mr. President, the Sustainable Development Goals are a beacon of hope in addressing global challenges. Tanzania's journey towards sustainable development reflects that of many nations facing significant challenges from the determined impact of COVID-19 on health and economic systems. Climate change, marked by extreme weather patterns like torrential rain and droughts, has deteriorated health issues and strained infrastructures. We are concerned about the slow pace in attaining these goals, whereas of 2023, only 17% of targets were on track, with over one-third regressing or stalling. Urgent action and global solidarity are needed to overcome barriers such as economic imbalances, climate change, conflict, and gender inequality. Mr. President, our commitment toward the realization of SDGs is focused on sustainability economic growth through strategic investment in agriculture, aquaculture, livestock, fisheries, infrastructure development, energy and digital economy. Our goal is to improve food security, reduce poverty, ensure job creation, and drive inclusive economic growth. There are many success stories in Tanzania emanating from this investment, such as the empowerment of youth through the Building Better Tomorrow agriculture initiatives in mainland Tanzania and empowerment of local women in Zanzibar through seaweed farming. On the other hand, Tanzania implements policies to ensure access to quality healthcare and education for all citizens, including the Universal Health Insurance Act and the free basic education. The government also invests in vocational training and STEM education to prepare youth for job market and digital economy. Defending human dignity, inclusivity, and equality. Mr. President, for decades, Tanzania foreign policy has prioritized respect for human dignity. Addressing this assembly on 4th December 1961, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the then Prime Minister of Tanganyika, stated that the basis of our action, internal and external, will be an attempt, an honest attempt, to honor the dignity of man. Mr. President, Tanzania has maintained this pledge by leading the fight against colonialism and racism. In this regard, Tanzania hosted the OAU Liberation Committee, supporting freedom fighters in their struggles for independence. Despite gaining political liberation, many countries still face economic sanction and inhuman conditions which hinders the achievement of genuine development. Thus, we call for realization of the right of self-determination of all people under colonial occupation and the fighting and the lifting of economic sanction imposed against them. This Assembly must continue to more boldly call for the lifting of economic sanctions placed against the people of Cuba and other countries too. So, to allow the peoples of these countries realize their basic rights, including rights to development. Mr. President, global humanitarian crisis due to war, conflict, and natural disaster requires unrestricted access to humanitarian aid, fair treatment of victims, accountability to actual sites, and the United Nations commitment to uphold human dignity for a peace world. Tanzania believes that every individual deserves to live in dignity, freedom, and security to reach their full potential. The United Nations must not remain indifferent in these solutions, as doing so would only determine its legitimacy. Mr. President, let me talk about peace and security. Security is indivisible. In the face of global health insecurity characterized by the pandemic such as COVID-19 and current mpox, the saying no one is safe until everyone is safe truly gathers meaning. It is imperative that we should invest more in peace, foster unity, and rebuild trust. In this regard, Tanzania welcomes the adoption of General Assembly Resolution 78/312, which proclaimed July 7th as World Kiswahili Language Day. Kiswahili is a language spoken by over 200 million people in all continents of the world. It is an important tool for advancing peace, unity, and cultural diversity. While Tanzania and other Kiswahili-speaking countries looking forward to commemorate this day in 2025 and beyond, we also call on this Assembly to explore the possibility of recognizing Kiswahili as an official language of our esteemed organization, or as this Assembly. Tanzania, East African Community, South African Development Community, and African Union have already led the way to Kiswahili speaking, and it is again important that we invest more in peace initiatives because there is no development without peace and unity. Your Excellency, Mr. President, in recognition of this requirement, Tanzania has several decades participated in peacekeeping, peace building, and mediation efforts. Tanzania has and continues to contribute towards world peace through its membership in the United Nations Security Council and the African Union Peace and Security Council. This contribution is also evident through its leadership in regional arrangements, such as International Conference on the Great Lakes region of Africa, and currently the chair of the organ on politics, defense, and security of Southern Africa Development Community. I wish to reassure this August Assembly that Tanzania's commitment towards peace will not weaken. Tanzania will continue to diligently dispense the obligations emanating from the culture of the United Nations. Mr. President, let me talk about climate and change. Tanzania, like many other developing countries, is highly vulnerable to droughts, floods, desertification, and effect to sea level rise. It is estimated that the sea level will rise by 41 centimeters by 2080. While the sea level rise cannot be reversed, Tanzania is taking several adoption and mitigation measures, including the restoration and the plantation of mangrove, enhancement of coastal infrastructure, and the promotion of ecotourism and aquaculture. It is imperative that, therefore, that we must invest more in climate finance to help recover economies already suffering from these effects, and to enhance access to funding for loss and damage in the hand-hit countries. Mr. President, about transformation to clean energy, as we prepare for COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, it is worth remembering that globally, an estimated 2.4 billion people are still using polluting fuel for cooking. This contributes to health problems, food insecurity, gender inequality, and environmental damage, including millions of premature death, limited access to education and employment for women and children, and increased household gas emission and deforestation. Achieving universal clean cooking access in Africa by 2030 would require an estimated about $4 billion annually, a small fraction of global energy spending. Mr. President, in response to this alarming situation, Tanzania is championing a clean cooking agenda, which essentially contributed to several SDGs, including goals number 7, focusing on ensuring access to affordable and sustainable energy for all. Tanzania will host the African Energy Summit in January 2025, means next year, co-organized with the World Bank and the African Development Bank. The summit aims to accelerate the implementation of World Bank Group and the African Bank Group commitment to provide electricity access to 300 million people in Africa by 2030. We look forward to working together with all partners to unlock energy potential and build brighter, more resilient future for Africa. Mr. President, delivering on democracy. In November this year, Tanzania will hold the local government election, followed by the presidential and the parliamentary election in October next year. As we prepare for this electoral event, I wish to assure this Assembly that democracy, human rights, and the rule of law will be upheld in line with President Samia's vision as captured in the 4 R's philosophy, namely reconciliation, resilience, reform, and rebuilding. Since the announcement of 4R principles in 2021, the government of Tanzania has continued to foster harmony and promote unity across political, religious, and ethnic divides. In implementation of 4R, the government has also undertaken several monumental reforms that seek to address shortfall within the criminal justice system, allow the effective political process, and enhance the enjoyment of human rights. Mr. President, reforms are crucial for countries and international organizations to stay relevant, for greater inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability, especially in multilateral bodies like UN Security Council and the Bretton Woods Institution. Tanzania remained committed to rebuilding its economy and society, focusing on inclusivity and empowering its citizens for a stronger future. Mr. President, when I go to conclude my speech, Tanzania argues all the world leaders to unite against international threats that undermine unity, peace, and human dignity. We are obliged to work together with goals stipulated in the Charter of the United Nations of sparing succeeded generation from the scourge of war. We must stop war and suffering that cause death and wanton suffering to innocent civilians, including women and children. Let us leverage innovation, adopt inclusive policies, and strengthen international cooperation in accelerating the implementation of SDGs. Together, let us build perhaps partnership that transcend borders, ensuring no one left behind. Let us undertake the necessary reform to make our multilateral institution fit for purpose. Let us rebuild trust and reconcile our differences. Let us cooperate to build resilience of our institution and people. We can achieve the future we want if we commit to rebuild and restore what has been damaged by our past action. As we look to the future, let us handle commitments made in various international fora. Together, let us embrace this moment with optimism and the shared dedication to inclusivity. Asante sana kwa kunisikiliza. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your attention.